In the dusty archives of the Metropolitan Historical Society, there exists a photograph that defies every law of nature and human understanding. A simple family portrait from 1890 shows a young woman named Catherine Whitmore standing beside her father, but when examined closely, reveals that the man in the image physically transformed between the moment the shutter clicked and the photograph was developed. Before we begin this chilling journey into one of history's most disturbing photographic mysteries, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what we're about to uncover. Dr. Margaret Ashworth had been the chief archivist at the Metropolitan Historical Society for nearly 15 years when she first encountered the Whitmore family collection in the autumn of 2023. The donation had arrived in 17 carefully labeled boxes, the bequest of one Eleanor Whitmore Hastings, the last surviving member of a once prominent New England family. The accompanying letter, written in Eleanor's shaking hand, mentioned only that the materials contained items of historical significance and requested that they be handled with appropriate caution. Dr. Ashworth approached the collection with her usual methodical precision. Each document, photograph, and artifact was catalogued according to strict archival standards. The Whitmore family had been successful textile merchants in the late 19th century, their prosperity evident in the quality of their personal effects and the meticulous documentation of their business dealings. Birth certificates, marriage licenses, property deeds, and business correspondence painted a picture of respectable Victorian prosperity. The photograph in question was discovered on the third day of processing, nestled between the pages of Catherine Whitmore's personal journal. It was a formal studio portrait, typical of the era young woman of perhaps 22 years, standing beside a seated gentleman who appeared to be in his 50s. The photographer's embossed mark in the corner identified it as the work of James Morrison, a well-regarded portraitist whose studio operated on Commonwealth Avenue in Boston from 1885 to 1895. Catherine's journal entry, dated October 15, 1890, provided context for the photograph. Father insisted we visit Mr. Morrison's studio today for a formal portrait. He has been most peculiar of late, complaining of headaches and strange dreams. I pray this malady will pass soon, as it grieves me to see him so troubled. The entry was written in Catherine's characteristic neat script, the ink still rich and dark after more than a century. What initially drew Dr. Ashworth's attention was not the photograph itself, but rather the unusual quality of the paper. Unlike other photographs in the collection, this one possessed an almost luminous quality, as though the chemicals used in its development had been somehow altered. When she examined it under magnification, she noticed something that made her pause in her cataloguing. The gentleman in the photograph appeared to be in two slightly different positions simultaneously. Dr. Ashworth had encountered damaged photographs before double exposures, chemical stains, light leaks, but this was different. The anomalies were too precise, too deliberate to be accidental. She decided to subject the photograph to high-resolution digital scanning, a process that often revealed details invisible to the naked eye. The results were profoundly disturbing. Under digital magnification, the man's features appeared to be in constant, subtle flux. His eyes, while maintaining their basic shape and position, seemed to reflect light from sources that weren't present in the studio. The texture of his skin showed minute variations that suggested either severe digital corruption or something far more unsettling, the appearance of organic change occurring during the brief moment of photographic exposure. Dr. Ashworth consulted with Dr. James Fletcher, a forensic photography expert at the nearby university. Dr. Fletcher had spent 23 years analyzing photographic evidence for law enforcement agencies and had never encountered anything resembling the Whitmore portrait. His initial assessment was that the photograph had been deliberately altered, perhaps as an early experiment in photo manipulation. However, chemical analysis of the photographic paper and emulsion revealed no evidence of tampering. The silver halide crystals were distributed exactly as they would be in an unmanipulated photograph from the period. According to every scientific test they could devise, the photograph was authentic and unaltered. Dr. Fletcher's final report was troubling in its implications. The image appears to show genuine physiological transformation occurring within the exposure time of the photograph, he wrote. Determined to understand the mystery, Dr. Ashworth began researching the Whitmore family history in greater detail. What she discovered in the public records painted a picture that contradicted the family's carefully maintained image of respectability and prosperity. Thomas Whitmore, Catherine's father, had indeed owned a successful textile business, but his personal life was marked by increasingly erratic behavior in the months leading up to the photograph. Police reports from October 1890 documented 3 separate incidents in which neighbors complained of strange noises and disturbing activities emanating from the Whitmore household. One report described inhuman sounds coming from Thomas's study late at night. The family physician, Dr. Samuel Hartwell, had documented Thomas's condition in his private medical notes, which had been donated to the Massachusetts Medical Society upon his death in 1923. Dr. Hartwell described his patient as suffering from episodes of complete personality transformation, during which he would speak in languages he had never learned and demonstrate knowledge of events he could not possibly have witnessed. Most disturbing of all was Dr. Hartwell's final entry regarding Thomas Whitmore, dated October 20th, 1895, days after the photograph was taken. Patient appears to be inhabited by something that is decidedly not human, the physician wrote. Catherine's journal entries from this period revealed her growing terror at her father's transformation. Father's face changes when he thinks I am not watching, she wrote on October 18th. His features shift like shadows, and his eyes reflect light in a manner most unnatural. I have taken to locking my door at night, for I no longer recognize the man who raised me. Dr. Ashworth discovered that Catherine had fled the family home on October 22, 1890, taking refuge with her aunt in Providence, Rhode Island. She never returned to Boston and never saw her father again. Thomas Whitmore disappeared without explanation on Halloween night, 1890. No body was ever found, no missing person report was ever filed, and no official investigation was conducted. The textile business was quietly dissolved in 1894, and the Whitmore mansion was demolished within months of its sale. As Dr. Ashworth delved deeper into the mystery, she began experiencing disturbing dreams. Night after night, she found herself standing in a Victorian photography studio, watching as a man's face slowly changed while she was powerless to look away. She would wake with the taste of developing chemicals in her mouth and the sound of a camera's shutter echoing in her ears. These nocturnal experiences intensified when she discovered a second photograph hidden in the binding of Catherine's journaler photograph that shouldn't have existed. This second image, also bearing James Morrison's studio mark, showed the same pose, the same setting, but the man beside Catherine was entirely different. Where Thomas Whitmore had been middle-aged and distinguished, this figure was younger, with features that seemed to shift and blur even in the static image. Most unsettling of all, the thing wearing Thomas's clothes was looking directly at the camera with an expression of malevolent intelligence. The date inscribed on the back of this second photograph was October 15, 1890, the same day as the first portrait. Dr. Ashworth realized she was looking at 2 photographs taken moments apart, documenting a transformation that defied every law of nature and human understanding. The answer came in Catherine's final journal entry, dated October 23, 1890, the day after her father's disappearance. I have hidden the photographs where they can never be reunited. She wrote, Mr. Morrison warned me that the 2 images must never come together, for doing so would complete the summoning. He paid with his life for taking those pictures, found dead in his studio with his camera smashed and his dark room destroyed. Dr. Ashworth understood with growing horror that she had done exactly what Catherine had feared. She had brought the 2 photographs together in the same location. As she sat in her office late one evening, studying the images under her magnifying lamp, she became aware of subtle changes in the room around her. The shadows seemed deeper, more fluid. The air grew thick with the acrid smell of photographic chemicals. When she looked up from the photographs, she saw her own reflection in the darkened window of her office. But standing behind her, clearly visible in the glass, was a figure that bore the unmistakable features of Thomas Whitmore, or the thing that had taken his place. Dr. Ashworth spun around to find her office empty, but when she turned back to the window, the reflection remained. She fled the archive that night and didn't return for 3 days. When she finally gathered the courage to go back, she found the two photographs exactly as she had left them, but with one crucial difference. In both images, Catherine Whitmore was no longer standing beside her father. She was gone, as though she had simply walked out of the frame. And in her place, standing next to the transformed Thomas Whitmore, was a figure that bore an unmistakable resemblance to Dr. Margaret Ashworth herself. The photographs now reside in a specialized containment facility, separated by 3 floors and stored in temperature-controlled, light-sealed containers. The Metropolitan Historical Society's official records list them as damaged beyond repair and unsuitable for public exhibition. Dr. Ashworth took early retirement 6 months after her discovery, citing health concerns that she has never publicly discussed. But late at night, in photography studios around the world, some professionals report experiencing unusual difficulties with their equipment. Cameras malfunction without explanation, images develop with impossible distortions, and shadows appear in photographs where no shadows should exist. They speak of hearing a distant shutter clicking in empty darkrooms and seeing faces in their developing baths that do not belong to any of their subjects. The influence of whatever inhabited Thomas Whitmore appears to be spreading through the very medium that first captured its transformation, spreading through photographs themselves, turning each camera into a potential doorway, each portrait into a possible trap. The Whitmore photographs remind us that some mysteries are better left unsolved, some doors better left unopened, and some images better left unseen. In our age of digital imagery and instant photography, where billions of images are created and shared every day, we might do well to remember Catherine Whitmore's warning. Some things should never be photographed, some moments should never be preserved, and some truths should never be revealed. The camera may be the very tool through which ancient horrors enter our world, one photograph at a time. If you made it this far into our investigation, like the video and subscribe for more stories that history tried to bury. And if you're still watching, tell me where you're from and what time it is, because knowing that people around the world are sharing these disturbing discoveries makes the darkness just a little less lonely.